Okay, we are back with the final percent. And I am sick again. So, what does sick again mean? It means that I got this sinus infection, and then I went to the doctor, and I'm pretty sure he gave me the wrong stuff, just an inhaler and some steroids. So I felt fantastic for like 4 days, then felt like I literally was walking death, which is not a fun place to be. That's why I sound a little low because it's all coming back. Um, and then I got on antibiotics for like 10 days, and by the end of the cycle, I felt fantastic again. And about 4 days after that, I looked at my wife and I was going, oh my gosh, I really think I'm getting sick again. And she's sick again. So it's not the most awesome thing that we've been through, but we're actually in Phoenix, Arizona right now, and we are doing some business and working with some friends. And yes, I'm going to accidentally, of course, get some golf in while I'm here. It's going to be really fun. But anyway, there's the housekeeping items of why my voice is so low and what's been up with me. Today, I want to talk about emotional energy and getting emotional in business, decision making, anything like that, as it pertains to passion. And I think that a lot of people are starting to use them kind of interchangeably, and it's not the way that it should be. There's a lot of bosses that I have seen just go off on an employee, and they will use the excuse, sorry, I'm just very passionate about this. And again, full disclosure, most of these come from parts of my life that I've gone through, that I've witnessed, am actively going through. But I've absolutely used that excuse. Like, sorry, I'm very passionate. If you're so passionate about something, then you're usually a little bit more clear-headed. But when you let the because emotional energy kind of supercharges everything for good or bad. It's an exponential thing that happens. And so if you're really, really, really mad at somebody and you let all that emotional energy in, it's going to make matters worse. And you're usually going to take actions that you are not very proud of. I know that we've done this with friends. We've done it with significant others. We've done it with employees. But also think about how you talk to yourself. There's a lot of times where you get emotional with yourself. Why did I do that? Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep messing up? That kind of negative self-talk is something that I think people are not necessarily being the most aware of so that they can truly get better. But passion comes from a place of wanting to see change. Passion comes from a place of wanting to make yourself better, make your surroundings better, and see a real change in your life, in the lives of others. And so I want to take the time. I mean, we're doing this Monday morning thing, and when you go through your week this week, I want you to really try and understand the difference between being really emotional and being passionate. And like that, the passion that comes from your down in your soul. One of the things that I use when I'm teaching sales and stuff is you can only make decisions from 4 places in your life, and that is your head, your heart, your guts, and your nuts. Now, ladies, just so you know, when I say your nuts, it's just that lustful desire, that thing. It's just a way easier to say in that way. So please understand that what I'm saying is you've got to understand where you're making your decisions from. Now, believe it or not, the nuts part of your decision making is it's always wrong. It's absolutely always wrong. So just don't go from there. That's not a good place. That's the worst part of the emotional kind of thing. Your gut is almost always right. So you're going to get these little tugs to move in a certain direction, and your heart and your mind are set up as kind of a checks and balance system of saying, hey, do we have the wherewithal to get this accomplished now at this point in our life. And hopefully you can, if you can, you know what, go ahead and do it with passion. But if you can't, just recognize that. Go get the resources, whether that's money, whether that's knowledge, whether that's more books, whether that's the right circle, however you want to approach that, and understand that, okay, now's not the right time, but it might be the right time in 6 months. You know what? If you plan way out, it might be the right time in 10 years. But recognize where you're at in life, and make a passionate decision to serve yourself best, the ones around you best. It's those emotional decisions. And again, I used to be the quintessential entrepreneur, jump off the cliff, build a plane on the way down, and I'm just not that way anymore. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not risk adverse by any stretch of the imagination, but I am much more calculated in how I go about things and get things accomplished. And I think that's because I come from a place of passion instead of emotion. I don't want to necessarily I don't have much to prove to myself or others. I have things that I want to do, and I talk about them with my wife, and we figure out a plan of action and figure out, hey, this is what I think would be the best. And we take a very rational, methodical, passionate approach. And the passion is what gets inside of your perseverance, that allows your perseverance to prevail for just through anything. And that's why a lot of times when people will ask me, hey, what do you do for a living? I will tell them I am a perseverance expert. So when you're going through life, I want you to really start understanding, hey, am I being emotional right now, or am I being passionate right now? And unfortunately, you've got to understand that they are two very different things. And a lot of people will use their irrational emotional behavior. They'll use the excuse and say, sorry, I'm just really passionate about this. And that's just not the case. Usually you get frustrated and you get emotional and you get this, that, and the other when things aren't going your way. Because if that was the case, passion or emotion, if you use them interchangeably, they should show up in the good times and in the bad times. And so before I end this podcast, what I want to talk about is understand when you're trying to be honest with yourself and you're saying, hey, that idea didn't work out. Maybe you're starting to break through. Instead of the negative self-talk, you're starting to have honest self-talk, which everyone needs, but some people get too addicted to. And here's what I'm talking about. They'll say, oh, well, I messed up there, and I messed up there, and I can be better here, and I can be better there, and I can this. And they're very honest with themselves about their failures. But the problem is they are not honest with themselves about their successes. And all I'm saying is when you're having that self-talk and you're trying to understand what's going on, be honest with yourself about both, because so many people want to latch on to the negative and only concentrate on how can I do this, that, and the other. But you need wins in your life. You need to know how to appreciate yourself and value yourself. And so when you're going through your life and you're saying, oh man, I missed the boat there, and I could have done better there. You know what? Go ahead, and every time you find one negative about yourself, I want you to find two positives. And I guarantee you they're there, because it could be so much as, man, I really missed on that conversation with that employee, or with my superior, or with my colleague, or anything. But maybe you were just the world's greatest significant other in the morning. Yeah, but you know what? I really made them feel great, and I stood up for them. And maybe there's another colleague where a lot of things that come from me. I will say this idea of standing in the gap. So if you have an A, and then maybe like 10 inches to the side of it you have a B, and you draw a line, that is the way that all of the thinking of you or the company or whatever kind of ecosystem you're in at that moment. And then every now and then there's going to be a gap show up, and the leaders are the one, regardless of position, regardless of where they're at in the company, the leaders are the ones who are going to run towards the gap, try to stand in to make sure that we have a cogent way of thinking, so that we have a very transparent and strong, because the whole idea of you're only as strong as your weakest link, we'll get into that in another way. I think there's some pros and cons to that way of thinking, but excuse me. Told you I'm sick. But when you run into this situation and you have these gaps in the way that you're thinking, what you're trying to get accomplished, it's the leaders that run to it, regardless of their position, regardless of if they think it's beneath them. I don't believe in, oh, well, that's not my job. So I just want you guys to understand that when you're running through your life, regardless of where you're at, regardless of position, if you see something that needs to change, just run towards it. If you see a gap in the way of thinking, or a gap in the way that just your soul, your values, if you see a gap, go stand in the gap and fix it. And just really try to understand the difference between passion and emotional energy, because passion is great, passion is awesome, but I think a lot of people get it mixed up with the emotional side of things, and they are just using it as an excuse, unfortunately, and they need to understand what it means to be passionate. And I know this is not awesome, but I told you I'm going to get one out on Monday, and without fail, I'm going to make it happen. But the other thing is be honest, like how you can find clarity in passion and purpose and emotional energy, and where the gaps are is comes from honesty. And I really think that when you're talking with yourself and you're trying to go through things with yourself, you have to be honest about the good and the bad. So many times people will beat themselves up so much that they are only honest about the bad. And I mean, we all know if you're only honest about the good, that's called delusion, because life has both, So you get what is it? Opportunity mixed with, it's a Jim Rohn saying. I wish I'll have it on the next podcast, but it's basically opportunity mixed with tumultuous events, and you go through them, and I mean that's life, right? The peaks and the valleys. So without further ado, I'm going to let you go before I start coughing into the microphone again. But just to let you guys know, I am without fail going to hit these podcast marks. I appreciate you for listening. This is the Final Percent, and we are going to have some fun on Friday. But again, when you're going through your week, I just want you to really remember, am I being passionate or am I being emotional? And do I use one as an excuse? Take care.